who are you and how do you know me?
I'm Jim Kay, and I'm your uncle.
So, have you heard guys like Bill O'Reilly speak about a war on Christmas?
I have, and there absolutely is one.
There's a war on Christmas?
Absolutely. I've been fighting it all my life.
How's that?
I was born on Christmas, and I have to fight Jesus every year.
How so? Just the fact that you got to fight Jesus for attention?
Yes, all my life I've been denied my birthday because of Christmas. You've got your own birthday, right? You know,
Yeah.
You've had birthday parties, right?
Right.
I never had one. On Christmas, on my birthday, everybody comes to the house and opens presents. It's not like I don't get presents, but I don't get any extra presents too much. I'm sorry if I have some resentment, but I'm sorry, but I do. I can't help it. There is a war on Christmas, and it's aimed at me.
So your birthday gets lost in the sauce at Christmas?
Yes. Yeah, you might say that. And I'll tell you something else. My dad thought he was really, had a real good sense of humor. He'd do stuff like, one Christmas he gave me a pair of socks. He gave me one sock for Christmas and one sock for my birthday. What a guy.
From West Virginia Public Broadcasting, this is Us and Them, the podcast where we explore America's cultural divides. I'm Trey Kay. Today, a special Christmas episode. No, sorry, a special holiday episode for Christmas and Hanukkah, which ended a week ago, and Kwanzaa, which starts after Christmas. You get the idea. It's that time of year again. No, not the frantic buying season when store windows are donned with boughs of holly and tinsel and lights. No, it's the time of year when my Facebook feed flares up with posts about the war on Christmas, both Christmas present and Christmas past.
Christmas is under constant siege.
It's part of a not-so-subtle protest against the nativity scene already on display there.
The Christmas tradition was not inclusive.
Santa Claus should not be a white man anymore.
Is it okay to say Merry Christmas?
If I become president, we're all going to be saying Merry Christmas again. That I can tell you.
It seems that every year there's an uproar about something, like how saying Happy Holidays instead of Merry Christmas is too politically correct, or that a nativity scene doesn't belong on government property. Christmas traditionalists feel like it's an attack on a sacred holiday, while secularists seem bothered that this religious holiday has a privileged place in a country that's known for its separation between church and state. But what both sides agree on is that Christmas, for better or worse, has outgrown its religious meaning. And there's certainly disagreement on whether a war on Christmas actually exists. On his show last year in December, Bill O'Reilly, the self-described five-star general in the war on Christmas, demonstrated his vigilance against those who question this war's veracity.
Every Christmas season, there are people who try to diminish the celebration of Jesus' birthday. We all know it. But we do have a whole bunch of war on Christmas deniers who say that I and others are making the whole thing up. Well, here's the first evidence this year. A billboard put up by an atheist group telling children to skip church on Christmas Day. Nice, right?
This year, the opening salvo came on November 1st when Starbucks released its seasonal coffee cup.
Can I get like one of the large chai teas in one of the festive holiday cups?
Festive holiday cups. Is this what you're doing?
That's what I'm talking about. Have you heard complaints about the festive holiday cup?
Not that I've heard.
Okay.
We've had people come in and complain about people complaining, but
Right.
that's about it.
The cup is bright red with a green Starbucks logo in the middle. To some, this is just another example of taking religious expression out of Christmas. Apparently, past cups used to be much more festive, but not necessarily religious. But compared to them, this is kind of austere.
I'm a Christian, I'm a fellow believer, and I think that if people are out there getting upset that there's no Christian-themed designs on a red cup, it's just a cup, it's nothing more. And that shouldn't really matter between your relationship with Jesus or God. A cup has nothing to do with God.
At my local Starbucks in Kingston, New York, there doesn't seem to be much controversy. But on my Facebook feed, some of my friends passionately vented about the Starbucks cup. Some people were really angry and called for a boycott. Others were saying things like, "It's just a red cup, for crying out loud. We've got bigger fish to fry." But cup or no cup, people have deep emotional us and them feelings about the holidays. And for this episode, I reached out to some of my Facebook friends to find out where they stand on the so-called war on Christmas. The first person I reached out to was Kathy. That's not her real name. She's a self-described born-again Christian. She says she's experienced backlash because she's a Christian, and she didn't want to use her real name. She told me a story about how she and her daughter experienced religious prejudice in their community.
There was a time where I was part of a Girl Scouts group, actually, with my daughter when she was younger. And it came time for the holidays, and each one of us was supposed to bring in something that represented what we celebrated at the holidays.
A Jewish girl brought in a menorah and a dreidel and told the kids about celebrating Hanukkah. A girl from a more secular home talked about how her family volunteered at a food pantry and brought in some canned goods for her show and tell presentation. Kathy's daughter brought in a nativity set.
We're told to keep it short and not to discuss Jesus.
Kathy says that when she and her daughter made their presentation, several parents seemed unhappy and pulled their kids out of the room. And after they got home,
I got emails from 2 parents, and one of them said, "Your Christianity has no place in our Girl Scout meetings. We don't need to be judged by you. Our girls are not Christians. We don't uphold Christianity in our household, and it has no business in here, and you need to leave it out, and if you can't, you need to get out." But this is just a viewpoint of telling what we believe. I'm not telling you that I'm right or wrong. I'm just telling you what I believe in, and why can't we all equally share here?
But do you understand that some people might not take you at your word with regard to that? And
Sure.
Maybe the other parents thought Kathy's presentation on the Nativity, or the mere mention of Christianity, was crossing the line.
Why doesn't someone speaking about Hanukkah anger people the way Christianity does? Why is somebody not talking to me about their menorah and their celebrating of the Hanukkah send everybody up into flames? Why is that not proselytizing to them as it does to me? Why can't I speak my views without being perceived that I'm trying to convert you?
And I just want to be clear. You had the creche, or the nativity scene, and basically all you wanted to say that at this time of year, this is what we believe. And you weren't planning an altar call. We believe that this is the birth of the Son of God, and this is really what this is about, right?
The same as the people who brought in the menorah talked about what each of the candles represented. The creche also has figures in it that are the historical figures from the Bible, and we wanted to say what those figures were and why they're placed here and what the center of it is and why we put this up at Christmas time and why this is where our focus is for Christmas. The same as everybody else did.
In a way, I think Kathy has a point. There have been times when I've been around secular people, and talking about Jesus in a passionate way is off-putting to them. There's a fear of being converted or judged. Folks want to keep it at an arm's length. But Kathy says that's not what she was doing. She was sharing her culture like everyone else in the room. Kathy also says she's noticed when she's shopping in department stores that they have holiday music, Christmas music, but the religious songs seem to be edited out.
Frosty the Snowman was a jolly happy soul.
Walking around, I noticed that there's a lot of Grandma Got Run Over by the Reindeer and Frosty the Snowman, and saw Grandpa, or who was somebody being kissed under the mistletoe, whatever it is, and was thinking to myself, this is a rather selective mix that's coming out, and why aren't there Christian songs?
Christian songs like what?
Like O Come All Ye Faithful, Hark the Herald Angels Sing, Silent Night, the standards. Those carols have been around forever and were written to glorify Jesus Christ at Christmas time. And so I went back to customer service and I just said, a question. Why is your Christmas music that is being pumped through the store not something that depicts everything that's going on during the holidays? Why aren't there some Christian songs in it? And the response was because we didn't want to offend people. And I looked at her and I said, well, I'm offended. I'm a Christian and I would like to have Christian music up there. Why is that being, secluded from it? If they're playing everything but Christian music, isn't that secluding part of their public who they're there to serve? Why can't everything be embraced?
I suggested to Kathy that maybe some people are reluctant to embrace the religious aspects of Christmas because they have this image of a judgmental, scolding preacher.
The scolding finger does not come from God or Jesus. The scolding finger comes from people taking God's words and using them against you. I came from a view of don't point your Christianity at me. I came through that. That's why I understand the other view so well, and I can see both sides of it. Society's changed. The world has changed. It's always changing, which is fine. You have to move with the times. But I think there is a lot of you can't do this and you can't do that anymore. And one of the things that you can't do, or at least I don't feel comfortable with, is being open necessarily with my Christianity.
Kathy says she doesn't want to force anyone to toe the line that Jesus is the reason for the season. But she also doesn't want to see her faith minimized or silenced. Listening to her, I get the sense that she realizes that the image of Christianity, for some, is of the scolding preacher with hardline religious stances on social issues, and that this may have soured people's connection with the religious part of the holiday. My friends Pepe and Teresa live down the road from me. They grew up around Roman Catholicism, but left it behind because, as married lesbians, they haven't felt accepted. But they decided that wasn't going to determine how they celebrated Christmas. Pepe doesn't hide her excitement about the holiday.
I love Christmas. I love the presents. I love the Christmas tree. I love the ornaments. I love the music. I love the whole shebang.
She is Christmas.
How so?
I just enjoy watching her enjoy Christmas.
When you go into their home at this time of year, the Christmas music is cranked.
So, when you are choosing your Christmas music, what's your criterion for the songs that end up on the list?
Inspirational, magical, warm-hearted, danceable. Got to be danceable. Not boring. We like funky Christmas music.
And what I've noticed is that there are not that many of the songs that are from the religious side of it.
Well, I don't like the religious Christmas music so much. I've heard Silent Night, and I don't really need to hear it again. But if someone mixes it up in sort of a jazzy way or sort of a new way, then, it gets interesting.
Pepe and Teresa have a gorgeous Christmas tree and lots of other decorations, snowflakes, globes, stars. But there's no nativity scene. Teresa says that when she was a kid, she was the one in her family who got to put the baby Jesus in the manger on Christmas. But that's not a tradition she connects with anymore.
I never felt accepted by the church, so that's why I never felt connected to the church, and so I never went back after I didn't have to go anymore. So I guess, it always condemned who I was, and so why stick around with somebody that condemns you? So,
yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, I think any church, that openly dislikes who I am and what my lifestyle is, I have no use for them. None.
And as for a war on Christmas?
There's no war on Christmas in our life.
No.
Actually, I don't think there probably is. I mean, you don't have the religious aspects of Christmas. It's not celebrated in your house, but you say Merry Christmas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean it.
In fact, they kind of approach Christmas in a way that my friend Kathy would agree with. They want to be inclusive.
And you'll play a few religious songs every now and again, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
The time of year is about connecting with people. And if the religious piece is important to you, I'm happy for you. And so if I say Merry Christmas and that means something more to you than it does to me, that's fine. Because I'm taking my own meaning. I'm making my own meaning. But I still go back to, what's the war on Christmas? Isn't Christmas about what happens in your community, in your family, around your dining room table? So how is what happens at the mall, how does that bother me? How does that affect my Christmas, unless I allow it to? We all have a choice there. Because, some of this is just truly made up. The whole world is consumeristic. 24/7, 365 days a year. So why do we get so upset about it in December? That's the piece about, the war on Christmas. People are just out looking for a fight. People should stay home, sing carols, religious hymns.
Teresa and Peppy and I have this tradition. We sit near their fireplace and sing Hark the Herald Angels Sings like we're the kids in the Charlie Brown Christmas special. After a short break, we'll hear how the war on Christmas, if it exists, might be more of a Cold War, where the belligerents are vying for hearts and minds.
I also want people to be able to say Merry Christmas and not have to end up getting a bad look or a bad gaze or having people pull their children closer to you to stay away from the crazy Christian.
I'm Trey Kay, and this is Us and Them, which is supported in part by the West Virginia Humanities Council, the CRC Foundation, and the Daywood Foundation.
In difficult times, music gives us peace, brings us together, and helps heal us. It calms our nerves and brightens our days. That's why we're bringing you classic episodes of Mountain Stage on air and in our podcast. This is Larry Gross, host of Mountain Stage. Find something that's familiar or brand new and feel the power of live music on our website, mountainstage.org.
Before the break, you heard Peppy, Teresa, and me howling out Hark the Herald Angels Sings, a la the Peanuts. My friend Frank McDonough thinks this is cool. He likes hearing people singing religious Christmas songs at home. But he'd like to hear folks singing these tunes in public places as well.
In the 1960s, about this time of year, I was in the gymnasium at my elementary school on Bridge Road in Charleston, standing with my class with a little book of hymns, Christmas hymns, all the ones you know, Joy to the World, Silent Night, singing them in this gymnasium with all 6 of the elementary school classes there. You cannot sing those songs in any public school without risking a lawsuit right now.
Frank McDonough is Mormon and self-identifies as a conservative Christian. We grew up in the same town in West Virginia and went to the same high school. He now lives just across the border in Purcellville, Virginia.
Now, so my question is, who was it hurting? You ask me, what's the outcome? Why does it make a difference? Well, I have a freedom of religion. When I was in that gymnasium, everyone in that room was not a Christian. Regardless, even if they were, they still would not be allowed, even if they had permission slips from every kid in the class, to participate in things like this, and there are lawsuits stacking up to prove it.
Why is it that the Christian holiday needed to dominate? And why couldn't the setting that you talked about that you talked about singing those Christian hymns. Why couldn't you sing those Christian hymns in your church?
I did.
So, but why do they need to be in the school?
I think that I'm going to say the most offensive thing that I could possibly say in public, and that is, this is a Christian nation. It's a Judeo-Christian nation.
How do you figure that?
The values that Christianity brought over from the old world to the new world guided the founding fathers in the creation of the Constitution. I believe that our Constitution was divinely inspired. I honestly believe that. This continent was held back to be a place where Christians would be able to gather at some point in history, to be able to escape some of the external forces that were fighting against Christianity, and that this nation was founded as a result of that.
Frank believes that these days, Christians are playing defense against overly litigious civil libertarian groups. This past fall, he wrote about one group in particular, the Freedom from Religion Foundation, in an editorial in his local paper called Right from the Start, Suit Up for the War on Christmas.
In Franklin County, Indiana, they went to court and they ended up setting up their own nativity scene on the lawn of the courthouse that will now hold a Statue of Liberty, a statue of Washington, Benjamin Franklin, and Thomas Jefferson, all huddled around a manger, cradling the Bill of Rights instead of baby Jesus. So that doesn't tell me that they're just trying to block this display of religion in public. Now they're actually trying to get in your face with it.
Frank is right. The Freedom from Religion Foundation filed a lawsuit charging that Franklin County was mainly endorsing one religion, Christianity, by putting up religious icons and images on government property. To counter that legal action, the county commissioners compromised by opening their courthouse lawn for the display to any group, religious or secular, for just a fee of $25. So a Christian group could rent one part of the lawn and put up a nativity scene, and a secular group could put up a winter solstice display on another part. But beyond public battles over nativity scenes, Frank has noticed tensions when exchanging simple holiday greetings.
My hope is that if you're Jewish and you say Happy Hanukkah, that everyone will accept you for what you are and move along. My hope is that if you celebrate Kwanzaa, that when you say Joyous Kwanzaa to someone, they'll smile back at you, acknowledge your greeting, and that everything will go on. But I also want people to be able to say Merry Christmas and not have to end up getting a bad look or a bad gaze or having people pull their children closer to you to stay away from the crazy Christian.
And if you experience that happening, because I haven't experienced that.
I've gotten disparaging looks for that, just actually in the last couple of weeks. Not every time, not every other time, not every 10th time, but it has happened. And that wouldn't have happened at all 20 or 30 years ago.
And so these infrequent times where you get a look when somebody says Merry Christmas to you, that is evidence of a war on Christmas?
It's a sniper shot.
Wow. Okay.
Everything has to change, and sometimes it changes for the better. I'm just opposing the sudden changes. I think when it comes to Christianity in America, that we're going through a phase right now where it's not getting better. I think that it's getting worse. I think that the attacks on traditional Christmas expression has been ramped up over the last 5 or 10 years. And that's what I'm dragging my feet against and trying to take the arrows and trying to return fire.
Actually, I understand where Frank is coming from. The difference he's talking about is real. Things have changed significantly since the 1960s regarding how America deals with religion in the public square. Before then, and going back to the founding, America has been resolutely Christian. Since then, the nation has become more diverse, and we've struggled to become more accepting of minority beliefs and traditions. It's that kind of thing that Frank is warring against. Or at least he's trying to wrap his mind around it, not unlike the rest of us. On the other hand, some of those minority traditions intertwine with American traditions, including religious holidays. And though Frank may be on the front lines of the war on Christmas, others prefer to remain on the sidelines as spectators, taking the holidays at their own speed, like my friend Bob Goldberg.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up Jewish, very much secular and assimilated family.
Bob is a lifelong New Yorker who grew up so assimilated, he even celebrated Christmas.
When I was a kid, certainly we always celebrated Christmas in some form, in the form of like getting up early and having presents and...
On Christmas Day?
On Christmas Day, yeah.
Bob didn't think much about this tradition until he left New York to attend college in Indiana. This was his first experience of being away from the East Coast. And he went from an environment where he says about half of the people around him were Jewish to one where at most 20% were. And he quickly learned that people felt very different about Christmas.
And it was very different because among the friends who I made there who were Christian, I realized that it was very significant to them. I mean, the language of Jesus and you know, the metaphors and the stories, whether they considered themselves religious, it was part of the way they lived and part of the way they talked. And I think that was kind of the next piece for me, that I felt that now that I see how seriously people might take this, I feel like it's kind of hypocritical of me to celebrate Christmas. It's not my holiday, it's really theirs. I felt it was kind of disrespectful that I should join into it at all, because I feel like it's treating something lightly that somebody else treats seriously.
So at this time in his life, Bob gave up celebrating Christmas in deference to Christians who hold the holiday sacred. But over time, he feels like Christmas is hard to escape. And the idea of a war on Christmas?
I kind of roll my eyes at the idea of a war on Christmas, because we're in a country where Christmas is so pervasive. You can't really get away from it. Probably the part that really bothers me the most. It's Christmas as a commercial holiday, and not just as a commercial holiday, not just where people sell food and presents for celebrations, but where it's hyped up to the point of believing that our whole economy depends on nothing less than having a big Christmas. That so much in the news gets discussed about how much people are spending, how businesses are doing. You can't go anywhere without the message, you must enjoy Christmas, and if you must enjoy Christmas, you better be out buying a lot of expensive things for the people around, because how else do they know that you love them, that you love Christmas, if you're not spending a lot of money?
I think that I too am bothered by the commercialism. And if it's not the commercialism in particular, it's usually I don't have a lot of money, and often I don't feel like I have a lot of time. I grew up with a mother and a stepmother who seemed to, bring forth these amazing Christmases where they bought lots of presents for lots of, children and extended family, etc. But the one song, the Christmas song that just bothers me, and when I hear it, I can literally feel my shoulders rise with tension, is this song, "It's the Most Wonderful Time of the Year." I feel like, maybe you think so, but I don't, and I feel like that you're asking, you're almost like kind of forcing me to agree with you, and if I disagree with you, I'm negative.
It's the most wonderful time of the year, with the kids jingle belling and everyone telling you be of good cheer. It's the most wonderful time of the year.
It's funny you mentioned that. It's like I do feel that way about that song, that it's telling you how you feel about a holiday. It's like, I don't need a song to tell me what I think of it. Let me have my own thoughts. You celebrate what you want.
Friends come to call. It's the happy season of all.
It's no joke. That song makes me tense. It reminds me of what a stressful time the end of the year is, even without the holidays. Every year I have some big work-related or family thing that's unfinished. And this, combined with decorating and parties and purchasing gifts on my precarious budget, and then a bunch of people telling me that I need to connect with the religiousness of the season. Something that seems to me akin to a forced spoonful of castor oil. Well, that sometimes is more than I can handle. Sometimes it's just something that I feel like I just have to get through. Sometimes I think Merle Haggard had the right idea.
If we make it through December, everything's gonna be all right, I know.
The truth is, I like Christmas. I like the gathering of friends and family. And for me, time often slows down for a minute. And whether I like it or not, I kind of get hypnotized in this emotional bubble of the holiday. I'm not sure if it's the sacred or commercial part that gets me. I don't know if it's the food or the booze or the fact that the house looks fantastic or that people are often on their best behavior. But I like it, and I'm certainly not at war with it. And if we can make it through December, maybe we've won the war.
I don't mean to hate December. It's meant to be the happy time of year.
But what do you think? Would you like to see less of the commercial and more of the sacred? Does one person's freedom to express her religion trump another person's freedom from religion? And are Christians self-censoring out of fear? Can you let us know by contacting us on Twitter or Facebook? Or contact us through our feedback link at usandthempodcast.com. Remember, there's no ampersand. You've been listening to Us and Them. Our show was produced by Mitch Hanley and me, Trey Kay. Michael Lipton and Tristan Lozow wrote and performed the Us and Them theme music. Special thanks to Frank Picarazzi's vibraphone performance at Brooklyn's Grand Army Plaza. Mark Lerner designed our logo. Rita Krisafi and Mariana Trofimova designed our website at usandthempodcast.com and provide us with images for the web. The wonderful people at West Virginia Public Broadcasting make Us and Them possible. So do grants from the West Virginia Humanities Council and the CRC Foundation. Hey, we received a lot of feedback from our most recent Islamophobia show, like from this Muslim American woman in North Carolina.
For the first time in my life here as a U.S. citizen, I'm really beginning to question if this is really home. And that's really terrifying. For myself, my husband, and definitely for my 3 children, this has always been home. I think I can speak with confidence for the majority of Muslims when I say that we hate ISIS with all our hearts. We despise them and hate them for abusing Islam and for claiming that the violence that they carry out is in the name of Islam. These terrorists have hijacked my religion and are spreading lies about my religion.
As we close out the end of 2015, we wish you the best in the coming year. And with that in mind, what would you like to hear us cover? What Us and Them topic have we overlooked? Let us know at usandthempodcast.com. We're going to take a break over the holidays, and we're going to be back in the new year. Here's to a 2016 with deeper meaning and understanding of people's otherness. And hey, Merry Christmas. I hope no one's offended by that.
Support for this podcast comes from the Corporation for Public Broadcasting.